Hi there YouTube, it's Alex for Echo Alpha here, and today we're going to look at our workflow for handling aerial footage. And quite often we don't end up editing our own footage, and I'm sure you'll all agree it's often the case that you have to hand on your footage to somebody else so that they can incorporate it to their project. Now, we've used a lot of different platforms in the past. We've used Premiere Pro, Final Cut 10 and DaVinci Resolve, and that is the one that we've ended up sticking with when it comes to this specific workflow. So here is our workflow for aerial footage where we know we're going to be handing it on to somebody else rather than necessarily editing it ourselves. And we begin in the Media tab in DaVinci Resolve. So once we're in DaVinci Resolve, again, the great thing about DaVinci Resolve is it is free, but also it's cross-platform. So it works on both Mac and PC, and that's well worth keeping in mind if you have a multitude of different people in your team working on different systems. So in the Media tab in DaVinci Resolve, this is how a very quick overview of how it works. But you would use the left-hand menu to navigate your volumes, find your media. Once you have your media that you want to bring in, you grab it however way you fancy, and you bring it into the media pool below. I've already done that for you just to save a little bit of time, so all that media is now in the media pool, ready to start working with. Jumping over to the Edit tab, what we then are faced with is all our media ready to go, a couple of viewer windows, an inspector which we can just close off for now, and our timeline. And what we're going to do is drag footage straight into the timeline. So we drag that in and pop it on the timeline. I'm going to press Shift Z to be able to see the whole timeline there. And obviously we've got a little gap at the front, which we'll just click the gap, backspace, and then we've closed up, ready to begin looking at our footage. Now, obviously you'll go through your footage and you'll trim the bits that you think are relevant. Obviously, clips that didn't necessarily quite work you'll probably take out. So for example, we might just take out this first one because I know that one was a duff one, and we'll close up the gap again if we can, and we're going to work with this clip. Now, I have already gone through one of the steps that you may want to consider doing, which is making sure your clips are all highlighted here, right clicking, and then using this to generate optimized media. There's a whole nother video on optimized media which I will link to below, but basically it means that you have a format of codec that you can work with very, very quickly on your computer that doesn't tax the GPU or the CPU particularly, and enables you just to work a little bit faster with your footage. Especially good if you've got a slow system, so that's just a little advantage for that. And you can see, yeah, we're scrubbing through beautifully on this footage. So where DaVinci Resolve is brilliant, Command plus just to zoom in a little bit, and you can see the whole clip there as it is. And actually there's two shots here. There's a zoom in and then there's a kind of crescent shot. And we're going to use the trim tool. And once we have the trim tool, which is T on the keyboard, or this little icon here, it has a very cool little feature. So we know that we don't want all of this because we're just positioning ourselves out, and then that's the start of the clip just there. Use the current time indicator, place it over the spot where you know you want your clip to start, but you bring your cursor all the way across here so that you click just the edge of the clip, and you'll see that we've changed the cursor icon to that, and it looks like a sort of an arrow with a bracket on it. And once we've got that, we're going to click and drag towards the current time indicator, and what you'll see is happening is the whole timeline is shifting down, and we're going to then snap the beginning, and we have just successfully trimmed the beginning of that clip. And that's just perfect. And we move to the end point. So let's say that's the end point of the clip just there. What we're going to do is use the blade tool, or B, blade the clip, go back to our trim tool, and we know that this little bit of the clip we don't need, but that bit where we start the crescent sort of shot, we're going to use. So we again getting the trim tool, find the little bracket cursor, drag it down, but you'll notice that initial clip is staying in place. Snap the beginning of that clip to there. So now we've got one nice clip, and we've got this clip which starts and then say, yeah, probably about there, just finishes. So we're going to go to the end of the clip, and then again, similar function, get the bracket cursor and drag it down until it snaps. If you don't want it to snap, incidentally, you can turn snapping off here by pressing the N key or clicking this icon. But now what we've successfully done is taken clip 0520, split it into two, and trim both of them very, very quickly, as you'll see. And we'll just do this next one. So maybe there is the start of the clip. Again, move the trim tool, and this only works with the trim tool on. If you use the A key, you won't get the same cursor. It's a little bit different if you notice. It's sort of got 2 arrows and a bracket, whereas this trim tool, and you move to the end, sort of has 1 arrow, a bracket, and a magnet or something. I can't quite sort of so it looks like a razor tool almost. But we're going to then again select the end, drag it down. There we are, selected the trim, perfect. Drag it out to the end, do the same, bang. And then very quickly we have just selected 3 clips and trimmed them just like that. And the great thing about it, as I say, is that's 1 clip split into 2 and then another brand new clip here. So we very, very quickly started our trim process, and then we would just continue along the way, all the way through, doing exactly the same thing as before. Once we are all happy that we've done all our trimming, and let's just pretend that we have for now, we would move on to the next stage of the edit, which is the color. We know, and this is really what DaVinci Resolve is known for. It's an unbelievably powerful color grading suite here, and you can do pretty much anything you can think of in terms of fixing the sky a little bit, bringing up the color in the grass and the ground, and bring up the saturation levels a little bit. So you can do an awful lot. Unfortunately, this isn't a video where I'm going to dive into color particularly, and do leave a comment if you'd like to see a little bit more about that, but we can do that for you at some point. But in this instance, this is where you would do your color grading. This is where you would bring your levels up. If you wanted, maybe bring down the shadows a little bit, and maybe bring down the highlights a little bit, bring them up a little bit, depending on what you wanted to do. Once you're happy with your grade, let's say that's done, we would then move through to the next stage. And you can see all your clips here, so you could very easily work through all your different clips. And incidentally, you'll notice that this first 2 clips were the ones that we trimmed, that actually exist off the same file number. So very, very handy way of then, once you've trimmed it, just moving through all those trimmed clips as they exist on your timeline, ready for delivery. So moving on to the Deliver tab, this is the next stage and the last bit that you'll do. And this is where DaVinci Resolve is very powerful for this specific workflow of getting your clips ready to send on to a client. And it's because it gives you the ability to send your clips out directly from the timeline as separate brand new individual little clips. So we're going to do that now by going to Custom in the top left here, coming down to the Browse section to choose a location for where we're going to send all these clips to. So just recommend a folder on your computer somewhere within your project drive where you're going to do that. And render. Now, normally rendering out as a single clip is what you would do if you did this in, say, Premiere. You'd drag all your clips to the timeline, trim all your clips, and then you'd kind of be stuck with a situation where you've got all your clips, but you'd either have to send them out as one, or you'd have to start sending out lots of different sections one at a time, which would just take a really long time to do. So DaVinci Resolve is great at this. You just move it from single clip to individual clips, and all of a sudden it's going to render out every single clip as a new individual clip in its own right. But obviously, we have a slight problem in that we know that this first 2 clips particularly were cut from the very same clip. So it has the same file name. So we can't send it out twice, clearly. So the great thing is here, if you come to the File menu, you can have a custom name or source name. Now, if you use the source name, what it will do is it will take the original name, which is the DJI 5202, I think it was, or whatever it is on that clip, and it will use that. But when you click this box here to say use unique file name, you can then choose a suffix and have the file, the number of digits that you want in there. And the thing that's going to do is it's going to actually create a folder where you've got the clip, all the new individual clips. So say 10 clips, 20 clips, however many you have, all with numbers 1 to 20, and they're numbered from 1 to 20 or 1 to however many in your timeline. So as they appear in your timeline, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. But it will also retain the original source name for that clip. And that's really, really handy, especially when you have a situation where you're handing off to a customer or client and they want to come back to you and say, well, actually, could you do this? Could you fix this? Could you look at this clip for us? You will be able to ask them very quickly what the file name is. Once they've given you the full file name, you'll know exactly not only which clip they're talking about, but exactly where it is, and you'll be able to find it very, very quickly. Really useful, really, really handy. And the fact that you can just send that out as individual trimmed, graded clips is really powerful. Obviously, we work along this little thing just to check that we've got no audio, because again, you don't want to send out any audio. Normally it's prop noise if you have got recording audio, or there isn't any anyway, and in this case there isn't any anyway. The video format that you're sending it out as, obviously just bear in mind what format that you're going to send it out in. Make sure you're happy. Obviously, if you're going to a PC user, you may want to change it away from ProRes if you're on a Mac to something like DNxHD. That is a format that the PC will be able to see and understand. And obviously ProRes is fantastic if you're sending it on to someone who's editing on a Mac. Once you've done all this, there's one little box in the advanced settings you want to make sure is unchecked, and that is the Use Optimized Media. Make sure that's unchecked, because in general you don't want your computer using the optimized media that you've generated to create your final files, because it will be using a lower resolution file. Always go back to the source material if you can. That is that ready. So once we're happy that we've got all the settings that we like, we simply use this to add to render queue, and what you'll see is that was one I had before, but there you are. The job has been added to the render queue over here on the right. That's where we're going. 12 clips. Thank you very much. Start the render. It will then go off and render all these clips for you, and they'll be sat waiting in a file, trimmed, graded, and individually numbered, ready to send directly on to your client. That is by far and away the best workflow we've found for doing this type of work. So I hope you've enjoyed that video. I hope you're able to follow along. If you have any comments or questions, please do leave them below, and I'll try and get back to you if I can. Equally, if you've got any other ideas for videos that you would like to see, or if there's any areas of this video you'd like a little bit more explanation on, do let us know and we will try and do something like that for you. But that's it for now, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Do give us a like if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe to see more content from us as it becomes available. I've been Alex for Echo Alpha. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.